So ABC, which is owned by Disney, indefinitely suspends Jimmy Kimmel's show, and somehow it's Trump's fault. Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler, in my home office on a wonderful, rainy Florida day. And if you haven't heard the news, Jimmy Kimmel's contract with ABC, or his show with ABC, has been indefinitely suspended because of some outrageous remarks that Jimmy Kimmel made in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. From USA Today, Jimmy Kimmel pulled off air following FCC threats over Charlie Kirk comments. Anthony Robledo, USA Today, September 17, 2025. Jimmy Kimmel's late-night talk show was suspended indefinitely following the host's comments on the fatal shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Walt Disney-owned ABC said on Wednesday, September 17, that it will indefinitely stop airing, quote, Jimmy Kimmel Live, end quote, after the late-night host's comments about Kirk's assassination came under harsh criticism from the head of the Federal Communications Commission. Quote, Jimmy Kimmel Live will be preempted indefinitely, end quote, a spokesperson for the network said to USA Today in a statement. USA Today has reached out to Kimmel's representatives for comment. According to Reuters, Kimmel was seen Wednesday night leaving the El Capitan Theater where his show is taped, but did not respond to a request for comment. So there you have it. Disney indefinitely suspends Jimmy Kimmel's show, which suck. It is a terrible show. Jimmy Kimmel is an unfunny, terrible human. They suspend his show indefinitely, and somehow the Democrats find a way to blame this action of a private employer on their employee on Trump. You can make it make sense if you stop thinking. Now, a lot of these articles referencing Jimmy Kimmel's statements as relates to Charlie Kirk's assassination don't actually include the segment that is at issue here. If you haven't seen the segment at issue, here is the clip.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
There is that old expression in comedy that comedy is tragedy plus time. We are still in the wake of the shock of this outrageous assassination. We are still reeling in disbelief that something like this could happen in modern day America. It is not time for Jimmy Kimmel to A, spread political disinformation by blaming it on a MAGA supporter, and B, accusing Trump of being in the fourth stage of grief, that being construction. Ha ha. There's nothing funny about that. It's actually just evil. Trump is probably still in the first stage of grief, which is shock/denial. So Jimmy Kimmel makes these statements. There's some public outcry, as there should be. I don't know who watches this show in the first place, but there was sufficient public outcry that now his employer, ABC, owned by Disney, says, we're suspending this show indefinitely. The only issue is Jimmy Kimmel's contract was up next year anyhow. Jimmy Kimmel's contract was set to expire in May of 2026, and the rumorings on the street were that his contract was not going to be renewed anyhow because he's fundamentally unfunny, he's fundamentally evil, and he was costing the company tens of millions of dollars a year by some estimates. From Forbes, July 29, 2025, Jimmy Kimmel's contract, Stephen Colbert, and the future of late night. The fate of late night TV may now be with Jimmy Kimmel Live. Host Jimmy Kimmel's contract with Disney is set to end in 2026, and its renewal or lapse will say something about the genre more generally. CBS recently canceled The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. While the news came after Colbert criticized his parent company and Donald Trump, CBS maintains that it was, quote, purely a financial decision against a challenging backdrop in late night, end quote. The CBS show is among the most popular late night programs. However, it was revealed that it costs over $100 million annually to produce while losing over $40 million per year. According to someone familiar with the show, the budget includes a live band, a 200-person staff, and Colbert's annual $20 million salary. Later on in the article, in Q Q2 of 2025, The Late Show saw 2.42 million in viewership, while Jimmy Kimmel Live saw 1.77 million. The ABC Late Night Show may well have a lower budget. Both the show's budget and Kimmel's salary have not been published. However, canceling a more popular show the year before salary negotiations with Kimmel may leave Late Night in a precarious spot. Late Night has been declining in viewership for years, and it's unclear if Colbert's cancellation will be a one-off or fundamental shift in late night TV. And for those of you who may not know, in addition to whatever costs go into producing Jimmy Kimmel's show, his salary was something like $15 million a year. Jimmy Kimmel's show is suspended indefinitely in the wake of these comments, 9 months before his contract was set to expire anyhow, and I dare say they were not going to renew his contract regardless, as we saw with the indicators from the cancellation of the Stephen Colbert show. But bottom line, his inability to be a decent human being, let alone a funny comedian, is what led to this. He's got no one to blame but himself, and it was done by the corporation, a private entity, not by the government. So those idiots out there crying fascism and First Amendment rights are idiots who don't understand fascism or First Amendment rights. And by way of example, here's Martina Navratilova, who has me blocked on Twitter for some reason. I've never engaged with her in my life. I went to reply to one of her stupid tweets and found that she has preemptively blocked me. Martina Navratilova, in response to Jojo from Jurors, who also has me blocked, Jojo says, fascism isn't coming to America, it's here. To which Martina Navratilova quote tweets, yup. And there you see she has me blocked on Twitter for reasons I don't really know. To which I quote tweet, Martina Navratilova has me blocked with the laughing emoji. All I was going to say is that if she is so sad to see Jimmy go, she could hire him to do her next birthday or tennis event. I'm sure he'll be doing private events. He's really funny. He'll totally make the party great at Martina. Don't be a hypocrite. Fight fascism by hiring Jimmy Kimmel. But it's not just former tennis players being total idiots about the Jimmy Kimmel suspension of his show. You also have the current governor of New York State, Kathy Hochul, being a fool. Kathy Hochul at Gov. Kathy Hochul. Freedom of speech must be protected, whether it comes from an individual, a politician, or a comedian. The Trump administration's effort to silence Jimmy Kimmel is unacceptable. To which I quote tweet, you are not very smart at Gov. Kathy Hochul. The hypocrisy of you lecturing on freedom of speech while your administration literally fired employees for refusing to take the experimental COVID jab is palpable. Also, Kimmel was fired by his ultra-left employer, Disney. The Trump administration had nothing to do with it. Also, the action was taken by a private employer, not a government entity. So it is not a matter of freedom of speech, but employment contract law. Maybe you should get another booster. That will help you think clearer. And here you have Kathy, just the other day, not 3 years ago, saying, today I got my COVID-19 booster. The science is clear, and so is my mission. Protect New Yorkers, no matter what Washington throws at us. And if you look closely at the picture, some people are suggesting that there is a cap on that needle, and she could not have been taking any jab, let alone a saline jab. I have no knowledge of that. I am just going to share the aggregate knowledge of the interwebs. And the reality of this situation, it's not a First Amendment rights issue here. This is a private employer suspending their employee because he is unfunny, totally inhumane, and costing their brand, whatever is left of it, its goodwill and its reputation. They have a contractual right to do what they did, and Jimmy Kimmel made it very easy for them to save a few $1 million before not renewing his contract in May 2026. These jackasses want to talk about freedom of speech as though an employer does not have the freedom to decide who he keeps on as an employee, despite that employee costing them money, costing them reputation, and exposing them to all sorts of public scrutiny and ridicule. And then you have other people out there saying, oh, now the conservatives love cancel culture. It wasn't conservatives that canceled Jimmy Kimmel. Conservatives don't watch Jimmy Kimmel anymore. It was his leftist employer that terminated his contract or suspended his show because he is an absolute jackass. This is not an example of right-wing cancel culture. It's the left doing it to their own. What this is an example of is the left devouring its own. The hypocrisy, the irony, the karma that Jimmy Kimmel, a man who said that the unvaccinated should not get medical treatment, has now been fired. Yeah, it's not right-wing cancel culture, but I don't blame people on the right for actually rejoicing in Jimmy's downfall. And if you don't remember what Jimmy Kimmel said about the unvaccinated being denied medical treatment because they chose to not get vaccinated, here's that clip. May it live in infamy.
Dr. Fauci said that if hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy.
While I am sure there are some people on the right, some conservatives who are rejoicing in Jimmy Kimmel's cancellation or suspension of his show indefinitely, the majority are not. Unlike Jimmy Kimmel himself, who utterly rejoiced in orgiastic glee when Tucker Carlson was canceled from Fox News. Don't remember that, Jimmy? Here's the video.
Fox News has severed bow ties with Tucker Carlson. After all these years, they are parting ways, which means he was fired. I mean, that's really what parting ways means. Tucker couldn't be reached for comment. He's already on a plane to Moscow to meet with his manager. But what a shock. I mean, what an absolutely delightful shock this is. Now Tucker can spend more time at home tanning his testicles and touching himself to that sexy green M&M. Sadly, he's probably not done poisoning old people's brains. The question now is, where will he do it next? Will he go to OAN? Will he go to Newsmax? Will he crawl back up Satan's fiery beehole from whence he came? We don't know. One of the most despicable mother Tuckers ever to appear on American television.
So that is it. Jimmy Kimmel is out indefinitely, as though his contract was ever going to be renewed in a year. And by the way, before I share my final thoughts, if you're still watching and you have not yet liked, shared, subscribed, and turned on notifications, I don't know what I got to do to get you to do it, but if you would think about doing it, maybe think about doing it now. YouTube is not even recommending my own videos to my own subscribers, but there's a solution to that, and it's called Rumble, the free speech platform. It's also called vivabarneslaw.locals.com if you want to support the wonderful work that Robert Barnes and I do on a daily on the interwebs. But this is not a case of cancel culture. Cancel culture is getting fired for a tweet from a decade ago that has nothing to do with anything. Cancel culture is a disproportionate punishment for a minor transgression. This is contract law. This is basic dollars and cents. And this is maybe a little lesson in karma for those who rejoiced when other people were bona fide canceled. So like I said on Twitter, Jimmy, maybe take this time off to reflect on what a foul, awful human being you have become. It's never too late to see the light, to make changes, to become a better person. But something tells me that Jimmy Kimmel is too far set in his ways. It's Trump's fault. It's the conservatives. It's not the fact that he's become an awful, evil human being. And I say he became one, but it seems like he has been one for quite a long period of time. Now, with that said, if you like what I do, you know what to do, but most importantly, exercise, eat healthy, sunlight, talk to people in real life, and now you know your vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah!